Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. This morning at the breakfast they had kept a whiteboard and asked the delegates to write a message each. So I wrote on that, spontaneously, outcome, outcome and outcome. Meaning, just as Sanjay was just mentioning, the expectation is very much high, the public, and they expect outcomes to flow at this point of time. They waited too long, and it is high time that we produce the results. So I just thought that instead of going into nitty-gritty of an E-district or a CSC scheme, of which we are talking for a pretty long time, I could make some kind of a motivational intervention today. So I titled this as, again, outcome, outcome and outcome. Let us see how. The challenge is we have heard the word so very often, but in the context of IT departments and e-governance, what does it mean to us? So what counts eventually is the outcome of all our efforts. So what do we mean by that? It can mean different things to different people. It could be the attender keeping a bottle of water for Sanjay, or it could mean a birth certificate for somebody, or a land deed for somebody else. So we need to have clarity first on what impact do we want to create on the society through our efforts. What difference do we make? Can we make? Is the point in question. Once we are clear about this, then probably a good part of the work is already done. It is eventually, irrespective of the department, irrespective of the agency, public or private, what we look for is the efficiency, convenience and transparency in the service delivery. Whether it is a service to the citizen or a service to a business or an internal service within the organization. So in terms of e-services, then the outcome in terms of e-service delivery could be, what is the nature of the e-service that we are delivering? Is it old wine in new bottle? Is it totally different, transformed service? And what quantity of services are we delivering? Are we covering the entire set of services, an entire set of the target stakeholders that are interested in taking those? Are we serving the nook and corner places in this country? These are all the questions. What is our reach? What is the access? And of course, end of the day, the quality of service. Do we have some parameters to measure the quality? Are we clear about that? And once you are able to define them, what is the nature of my service? How much of that service do I deliver and to what quality? You are pretty much close to, what you want to achieve, what you can achieve, and you are on the right track once this is clear. Very often the deficiencies come in defining one or more of these three essential requirements of a service delivery system. Now, okay, it's fine. We know what to do. Don't tell us, we have been at it for a pretty long time, and we also know how to do things better. But then how? How do we implement that idea? So it again boils down to how. You know what, but the next immediate question is how. Then it is the stage for planning, where you have to re-engineer, or where there is no process in place, you may have to invent. You have to design from a clean slate perspective. Projectize it, entrust it to an agency which is competent to do it, and then monitor whether the project is on time and within the cost. These are fairly simple or, primary lessons in management, but I'm putting it in the perspective, as I said, in the context of e-governance. How well are our projects running? I think it's a big question today. Someone someday has designed very well a particular set of services and how then it should be delivered in fine detail, but implementation, there may be issues in projectization and monitoring the project to the, last detail. That is very much essential. And the third element here is, do we have the enabling environment? In a country as big as India and with 35 states and union territories, certain programs being conceptualized, funded, promoted, supported by the central government, and several others being taken up at the state levels. It's not a trivial task. If you are taking a small, organization, you can do things in your own way, etc. But in a large country and in the public sector environment, this may not really work out. This may not be a sustainable model. This may not be a scalable model. So what kind of enabling environment is required, which is, as I said, in a country, large country and diverse needs. It boils down to, once you have the right environment, everyone is speaking the same language. The idiom is understood in Kerala or Kashmir. It enables quick and elegant transformation of that idea into reality. So it will have several other components. Okay, environment, what does it mean? It's a big word. So clear implementation guidelines, whether from the center or from the states. At the same time, flexibility in an evolving situation, in a situation which no one has, the outcome of which no one has seen before. You can't fix every nut and bolt and say, that it should be done that way, exactly that way. Flexibility at various levels. The legal frameworks that lend authenticity to the whole system as such and make it sustainable. And the capacity, creation of capacity. How do we create the capacity to implement large programs, to understand and implement large programs? And also the infrastructure required, the technology behind it, and the various technological elements, including the security and, various other parameters, and of course the funding. Are we putting in these resources into the, but also the resources into on the table, and then expect the results to flow out of that? This is very much required at the apex levels, to be clear about what kind of guidelines are required, what kind of frameworks are required, what kind of infrastructure facilitation is required. Then last but not least is the leadership that is very much a key success factor in this, which is how to get the act together to produce the desired outcomes. Always the I, in all my 4 slides, the keyword is outcome, different aspects of the outcome. So the leader is one who has his mind always occupied with the outcome and nothing else. That is, I is always glued to that particular vision, that particular outcome. When is he going to realize that? How quickly? How elegantly? How kind of effortlessly, if you can call it so. So that is always eager. And then in that kind of a framework, the leader pushes in the direction. Because large programs, different people will have different points of view. There is no single way of doing or achieving the same outcome. There could be options. There will be debate. There will be dissent. There will be doubt. But the leader is one who has it very clear. He does the consultation, but at the end of the day, he has clarity, and then he doesn't swerve from the goal. That is what is required to produce. Otherwise, if you go on kind of interpreting every sentence and every objective that is set, or every mechanism, every procedure, it goes on endlessly. There is no limit to the analysis that can be done in a very, very complex, multidimensional subject such as e-governance. One can go on debating, but not moving an inch forward. That's not the way. We have to clinch. We have to look to that's where the leadership counts. Come what may, I will go on this course and produce a result. That is where the difference lies. And leadership is that which is having that kind of an approach. So the components of that leadership are a clear vision, motivation of others to follow that vision, and also coordination of various forces, which may not always work in sync in a complex environment like this. So that is what we need today. At various levels, leadership is to be displayed for successful results. Now, in terms of DIT's approach to the whole gamut of activities under e-governance, what is it that is happening? The philosophy has always been and will be to guide, to expedite, to facilitate, to produce the desired outcome. What all can we do? What role can we do? What parts of the earlier 4 slides can we really contribute to and create that kind of a leadership role, a guide's or a facilitator's role to be played by DIT. Now on this, certain instruments have already been put in place, like the core infrastructure, and I'm not going into details, but a lot of guidelines and frameworks have been put in place. We are also attempting rapid replication. Where there is success, there is a quick success among the peer groups. Somewhere somebody has produced quicker, better, more elegant result. Why don't you pick it up and then replicate rapidly so that the outcomes are reached much quicker across the country? And then of course funding is an instrument that is used by DIT for various projects. And on the program side, it boils down to a set of programs ultimately in the government environment, which a list is given here. You are familiar with all of them, but I would like to talk about the last two on the screen. The e-transactions portal, we have designed that and it is operational. At the end of the day, as I said in my opening slide, outcome, outcome, and outcome. In the e-governance scenario, it boils down to the e-transactions. How many e-transactions have you done today? So, to enable some resonance to happen across the country, this portal has been created where any service delivery mechanism, any service delivery project can link to this portal seamlessly and through web services, and then report the kind of transactions that it is in a real-time basis. So that a transaction happens in a remote village in Ajmer district, some block. The next minute it is there and it is able to be, you are able to see the effect of all this program. Otherwise it is dissipated, it is distributed thinly, which nobody has seen. So we need visibility today also to whatever is being done. It has two advantages. Number, visibility gives assurance to the people who have a lot of expectation, with which we started, in fact, this session. It shows, yes, this is what is happening. As a percentage of the total transactions, where are we in terms of, converting them to e-transactions, e-services? Number two, it also makes us, each one of us in this room, whether it is in the government side, whether it is in the service provider, whether it is in private sector, NGO, whoever is playing a role in this, makes us that much more answerable, because it's like a glass house. It will tell you very clearly what is happening and what's not happening. So it makes us more answerable on the one side, more motivated on the other side. Because if my transactions are on top of the chart in this portal, then it motivates me. If I'm somewhere below, then I should know how to push myself up. So that is the intention of this portal, which we are, a formal launch we'll have sometime in Jan, and then any portal in the e-governance space can link up to this portal, and we'll have a real-time count of what is happening in the country. That is ultimately that drives, I'm believing, and I hope my belief may not go wrong, that once we have this, then it will drive higher levels of performance, more of alignment taking place to push. Once I have transaction as a single metric of my success, whether it is at state or district or wherever level, then the dynamics, the psychology of the whole game will change. I do whatever is needed to increase that level, increase that standing, increase in that count. I work backwards. Given that X is what I should achieve in this month, I work backwards and see what all I need to add, what gaps should I fill up, what kind of capacity I have to create, what kind of infrastructure should I reinforce to make X into 2X next month. So that is the essence of the e-transactions portal. And this will enable us to align together as a country, though we are in different states, different central ministries. We'll all be aligned with a single number, which will add up at the national level. That is a single sentence vision that the deity has in this. And NIA 2.0 quickly is the vision for the next generation infrastructure to be created. We have the SWANs and SDGs and other things. Also, several departments have their own networks. How do you synergize it? How do you take advantage of the latest technologies? How do you make available infrastructure on demand is the tagline for NIA 2.0, infrastructure on demand. You forget, your job is to look at governance. Your job is to re-engineer, your job is to define and redefine service. Your job is not to be bothered about, whether a network is, how a network is working, whether a router is working or a switch is working. Your job is whether my citizen is getting the right quality of service. So focus your energy on that. And let the rest of the things, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is platform, whether it is software, take it as a service on demand. That is the cloud philosophy, so to say. It will be at the base of this NII 2.0. We are conceptualizing this, and hopefully in the course of the 12th five-year plan, we will be able to realize that kind of a vision, infrastructure on demand, and a national information infrastructure on demand. That is what we are planning to do. So I would like to conclude by saying that let us take advantage of all the frameworks, all the guidelines, all the resources that are made available, how to make best use of that, how to synthesize what is already there on the slate, how to create that big picture vision, how to lead our teams in a single direction of producing the outcomes which are boiling down to number of e-transactions and their quality as well. Thank you.